Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and author of 4 baking books, including Salty, Cheesy, Herby, Crispy, Snackable Bakes. On each episode, I hang out with the sweetest bakers around and take a deep dive into their signature bakes. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Cheryl Day back to She's My Cherry Pie. Cheryl was one of my very first guests when we launched the show a few years ago, and I'm so excited to have her back on. You probably know Cheryl as the celebrated self-taught baking powerhouse behind the now-closed Back in the Day Bakery in Savannah, Georgia. She's also a 2-time James Beard Award nominee and a New York Times bestselling cookbook author of 6 books, including her most recent, Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking, which features more than 200 recipes from Cheryl's famous biscuits to gathering cakes, scones, cobblers, jams, and preserves. Cheryl and her husband Griff opened Back in the Day in 2002, and it quickly became a fixture in Savannah, thanks to Cheryl's pies, cupcakes, and more delicious treats. In 2024, Cheryl and Griff shocked the culinary world when they announced they were closing the bakery after 22 years. Cheryl joins me today to talk about baking with both her grandmother and mother as a little girl, and about the fluffy apron she wore, and about the many times you need to turn a wooden spoon when making a cake batter without a mixer, about closing the bakery and what she's been up to since. She even gives me the scoop on her upcoming cookbook, Cake Lady. Then we chat about her sweet potato pie from Treasury, which Cheryl says is always on the Thanksgiving dessert table, but is also served all year long. We talk about her technique for making the flakiest pie crust. It involves smearing butter into flour with the heel of your hand, and how she makes a meringue topping without a candy thermometer. Chatting with Cheryl is always such a treat, so stay tuned. You can find today's recipe at cherrybombe.substack.com. Today's episode of She's My Cherry Pie is presented by our friends at California Prunes, the best prunes out there. We love them for 2 big reasons. They're a smart, wholesome snack, and they're a fabulous secret weapon in baking. You already know prunes are good for your gut, and maybe you've heard about their bone health benefits. But here's the real scoop. Prunes are downright delicious, whether you're baking something sweet or cooking up something savory. Don't just take my word for it. Here's what some of today's top chefs and bakers are saying. Pastry chef and cookbook author Rose Wild of Red Bread in LA says, prunes are so juicy and sweet. They have flavors of caramel and molasses, and I really love using them as an ingredient in the seasons when fresh produce isn't as abundant. They're a total dreamboat. Chef Ana Castro of Acamaya in New Orleans says, prunes have a sultriness to them. They're rich like velvet. Chef Kat Turner of Highly Likely in LA says, I love prunes. They're incredibly versatile, hitting that perfect balance between sweet and savory. I find them incredibly sensual. One of my favorite baking hacks is using prune puree. It adds amazing flavor while helping cut back on sugar, eggs, and fat in your recipe. Just blend prunes and water, and you're good to go. For more inspiration and plenty of recipes, visit californiaprunes.org. Happy baking and happy snacking. Peeps, did you hear the news? Jubilee New York 2026 is happening on Saturday, April 25th at the Glass House in Manhattan, and early bird tickets are on sale now. Jubilee is Cherry Bombe's annual conference celebrating women and creatives in the world of food and drink. It'll be a beautiful day of connection and community, plus delicious bites and sips. You'll meet other thoughtful food folks and be inspired by the featured speakers, panelists, and more. I had such a great time at this past year's event, and I know next year's will somehow be bigger and better. Early bird tickets are on sale now through December 31st. If you're an official Bomb Squad member or a paid Substack subscriber, be sure to use your discount code at checkout. You can find it in your inbox or on our Substack website. Head to cherrybombe.com for all the details. I hope to see you there. Let's chat with today's guest. Cheryl! Oh, so excited to have you on She's My Cherry Pie again and to talk sweet potato pie with you and so much more.
Oh my gosh. So happy to be here with you.
You grew up in LA, a self-professed Valley girl, baking with your mom, but also you spent summers in Alabama baking with your grandmother. So can you tell us about chocolate heaven cake, which I believe might have been the first thing you ever learned to bake with your grandmother?
It is. And still probably, it's like how we all have a comfort recipe. I think chocolate heaven cake, there's so many stories that surround that cake that are just all about happiness, and I love it. So yeah, that was the first cake. And the funny thing is, it is even better now, I think, dare I say, than my grandmother's, because, I get to use wonderful chocolate, and I think they used, not that great of a chocolate, but the cake was still so good. But I absolutely love it. I think everybody should have a great chocolate cake in their arsenal. This one is mine.
So I wanted you to tell us, I love these images that I read about, but I would love you to tell us about putting on fluffy aprons with your grandmother when you were baking. I love Cheryl and Grandma in a fluffy apron, which sort of continued on in your own bakery. And then also I loved reading this about learning to count the turns of the wooden spoon when you were making a cake with Grandma. Tell me about those two things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dating myself, of course, but, there's no secret about that. But yeah, I remember when my mom got her first electric mixer. I think my grandmother may have had a hand beater at some point. But yeah, you used to, I think even like when cake mixes came out, I think they would even tell you, like how many times to, turn. We have a recipe in one of our cookbooks, and we literally said it was a brownie recipe, and we said how many turns it was. It was like, I don't know, 100 or something. And I can't believe that even, passed editing, because I'm like, who is going to do this? But it's fun to talk about with people, They're like, I did those 100 turns.
Right.
But so, yeah, that was the thing you had to deal with, the big spoon, like a big old wooden spoon. And, it's those memories for me that I think is what I am all about. You'll never find me doing cakes that, I do put my modern twist on things. There's so much nostalgia for me because to me, baking is about telling stories. And, in this day and age, to me, it's just even more important than ever to be able to, pass on this craft. And that's why I still do things the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember how old you might have been when you first learned to make that cake and first put on a fluffy?
I was about 8, Jessie. Yeah.
I'm picturing this closet with like all the fluffy aprons in it, and you would grab one and
And it's so funny that you mentioned that because I literally, in our kitchen, I have got, in our little back closet, a closet of fluffy aprons.
Oh.
And I really hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that it was like your grandmother.
Until you just said that.
Oh.
But yeah, and I can't stop with the fluffy aprons.
Were there cookbooks around? Like, was your mom reading church books? Were you interested in cookbooks when you were little? Like, sort of not only helping your grandma and your mom, but also Cheryl herself starting to make things and use cookbooks?
Okay, so you have no idea what a great question that is. And how I really, truly, when I started working on, the proposal for my next book, I realized, no, we didn't have cookbooks. And I don't want to give too much away, but no, we had other ways of interacting in the kitchen. We would read great stories by other Black authors of the time. I do remember kind of seeing church cookbooks. My grandmother was very active in her church. But no, I didn't grow up with cookbooks.
Yeah.
Now, I did watch cooking shows on television when I'd come home from school. So
what'd you watch?
Oh, Julia Child.
Yeah.
There was a show called Galloping Gourmet.
Yes.
Just really between that and Dark Shadows, that was my thing.
That was Cheryl. We'll be right back. Today's episode is presented by Diamond of California Nuts, the century-old nut brand I couldn't bake without. If I opened my freezer for you right now, because that's where I keep my nuts, you'd see my stock of diamond walnuts, almonds, and pecans ready for whatever I'm baking next. I love that they work with family-run farms that guarantee quality and commitment to the craft. Diamond also created the first ever ready-to-use nut pie crust, which just so happens to be gluten-free. If you haven't checked these out, you must. They're the best holiday baking shortcut. The first ingredient is nuts, not flour or sugar, and you can really taste the difference. There's a pecan crust that would be amazing with your Thanksgiving pumpkin or apple pies, and a chocolate crust that I just want with everything. When you're at the grocery store, look for the nuts in the white bag with the red diamond logo in the baking aisle. That's your sign you're getting premium quality nuts that bakers have trusted for generations. Visit diamondnuts.com to find a store nearest you and to explore their fan-favorite recipes like pecan sticky buns. Yum. Happy baking. Cake lovers, you are going to love the next issue of Cherry Bombe magazine. I'm so excited to announce that the upcoming holiday issue of Cherry Bombe is all about cake. It's going to be packed with sweet stories, beautiful recipes, and heartfelt essays dedicated to our favorite dessert. Stay tuned for the cover reveal. I know it's going to be extra delicious. The issue will be out in early December, so head to cherrybombe.com to subscribe now and ensure it lands in your mailbox just in time for the holidays. Now back to our guest. You've said that your love affair with baking in the American South began during these years of baking in L.A. with your mom and your grandmother in Alabama over the summer. I love this, Cheryl, but you didn't know that Southern baking was actually in your DNA until you found your mom's journal when she passed, and that you basically kind of met your great-great-grandmother inside that journal, which is so meaningful. We talked about Hannah Queen Grubbs the last time we chatted, but I want to talk about her again because she deserves to be chatted about every time you and I meet. And I also think, is it true that Hannah was known for her sweet potato pie?
That was definitely one of the things that she was known for, but Hannah was just like a force.
Yeah.
And she was a little bitty thing, apparently, tiny, not even 5 feet tall. But she was a force. She lived a very long time, till over 100 years old. I love talking about Hannah Queen Grubbs. And I'm still a little salty, I may have said this before, that I was not named Queen because there are so many queens in my family.
Aww.
And one of my dear friends who has worked on all of my cookbooks, Haley, she just had a baby. Well, she's almost 2. And she is Queen.
Aww.
And that is just so special. Well, she's Etta Queen.
Yep.
It's just so special that is being passed on in some way, since Griff and I don't have children. So yeah, I learned about just how resilient she was. I could talk to you for a whole session truly about her, because I have discovered things even after. Maybe they'll make an appearance in the next book. But I discovered things after that I didn't know about her, because Haley was doing research, wanting to try to find pictures of her or something. We thought we could find some records. And I won't get into this too much, but we did find an article that a journalist wrote about her family being, slave owners. And it was kind of something that she was coming to terms with and, she was embarrassed by, but she was talking about her family history via slavery, and she just couldn't believe that that was something that would be a part of her family. Long story short, Hannah Queen Grubbs, she wasn't known as Queen. I think she may have given herself that name, to be honest. But she came up in that article, Jessie, and I ended up meeting with this woman via writing letters, and she sent me all of the records, and we found out that she was on this plantation. It was just such a deep story for me. Wow. But the main thing is that this journalist was wanting to, part of the things that she mentioned in the article was how she was so concerned about what happened to Hannah, and there was another person there, George. I just wanted her to know what happened to her and that I was what happened to her. And it was really cool to have that conversation.
So I need to share a quick Cheryl Day fun fact, which is that you were a soul trained dancer as a teenager.
Oh, my goodness. An interview would not be complete without bringing that up.
And the Valley Girl thing, which I mentioned in the beginning. And you've always loved music and dancing. And I loved learning this, that you kind of bonded with Griff, your husband, and fellow baker business owner, when you guys had the bakery together, about music. I thought that was such a cool way that you guys connected. And I also thought it was interesting, neither you nor Griff started your career as professional bakers. It kind of happened when you guys decided to open the bakery. And I loved learning that both of you were kind of introduced to baking via your mothers and your grandmothers.
Right, yeah.
But he's not from the South, right?
No, Griff's from Minneapolis.
So that's so cool. So he started bringing...
So a lot of cardamom and, Norwegian baking, and we kind of learned how to fuse them into the recipes at the bakery.
Yeah. So you closed back in the day almost 2 years ago? No, I guess almost a year ago now.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years in February.
Yeah. Tell us about that experience. Like, obviously you guys were ready, and what it feels like to not wake up at 3:30 or have, Griff wake you up with coffee milk every morning.
Yeah. It feels so good.
Oh,
I have
glad.
So much. I think bakers are the sweetest and the hardest working folks there are out there. I just love whenever I visit anywhere, that's my first stop, is to find all the local bakeries, because I know they're in there working hard. I do not miss waking up early. I don't know how I did it for all of those years. I honestly don't. Yeah, I am really looking forward to making pies this year, just like maybe 5.
Right. Instead of 500.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Griff and I have been getting used to, it's definitely different. When you've done it for so long, it was an adjustment at first, discovering and finding, how we could recreate ourselves again, because we had done it so many times during our life. And then during COVID, I felt like I reinvented myself so many times. So, yeah, we're now doing it again, and it feels really good. We're enjoying it. We're enjoying traveling, getting to explore even the city that we call home in Savannah.
Yeah.
We love it.
Aw.
We absolutely love it.
Before we jump into the recipe, please tell us about your new cake cookbook.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
That is, it's coming pretty quickly, it looks like. Cake Lady is about my culture and my experience of all the cake ladies that I've met over the years, some that I haven't met, because in Black culture, being a cake lady is something different. And so I will leave it a little light there, but I'm going to be telling people what that really means. And it's taking you through a history lesson from freedom, from emancipation to the here and now. And so it's going to be a little bit of a history lesson, but it's going to tell the heart and soul of my community. And I could not be more excited, because there are cake ladies in many communities. If you ask someone in the Black community, is there a cake lady in your community? It's a whole different thing. And so that's what I'm going to talk about in this next book, and I'm super excited.
When does it publish?
Oh, I have no idea, but
sometime.
I think it's pretty quickly. My manuscript is due next October.
Oh, amazing.
And photography's due like December. So, a year, which is the shortest time I've ever had.
Yeah.
Usually I'm years in.
Yeah.
Writing through COVID and all of that. But I had never had a literary agent before. So, yeah, shout out to Rika Alanek. And she really worked me through the process of writing a proposal that is truly my blueprint. And I have really helped my future self, because in the past, I was running a bakery. I don't even know how I did it all, especially the last cookbook, the Treasury of Southern Baking. It was just such it just kept growing and growing and growing. Finally, it became, this big tome of Southern baking through my eyes.
All right, so now we're going to talk about sweet potato pie, which you
yay.
describe as always being on the Thanksgiving dessert table, but you actually like to eat it all year long. It's not just Thanksgiving.
Well, I don't know if you can get sweet potatoes everywhere. Probably you can now. But here in the South, you can always get sweet potatoes. And so we do eat them all year long.
The recipe is from your brilliant Cheryl Day's Treasury of Southern Baking, which celebrates the craft of from-scratch Southern baking, showcases your passion for collecting local cookbooks and handwritten recipes. It also represents, as you say, your life's work, educating and reminding folks about the origins of Southern baking. So we're going to start with the very flavorful and tender and flaky crust in a medium bowl. I know it's different when you're in the bakery, but at home, are you using a metal bowl, using a old ceramic bowl? What's your bowl of choice when you're making up some pie dough?
I do sometimes use a metal bowl, but when I started doing the pandy, as we call it, I started doing videos from home, and I found this awesome bowl from Food 52. It's I don't know what kind of plastic or whatever. It's probably another term, but it has this bottom. It's wide, like those metal bowls. Mm-hmm. And it's a big white bowl, and it has this little suction on the bottom. It is perfect, but it gives you that same feeling of that wide silver bowl that we would use at the bakery. But it just, looks nice, and it stores really nice. But before we move on, can I just say one thing about pie crust?
Of course, honey.
Okay. So I just want to say that this is my pie crust of choice for this recipe because I do feel like it does pass on this legacy recipe as it would have been made, which is important to me. But I do think it's important with pies because we know about pie fear with folks to meet people where they are. This is not the only crust, and I don't want anything to stop you from making pie. There's so many other crusts that you could make a sweet potato pie with, molasses, ginger snap cookie crust, like a melted butter, like my shortcut crust, which I love. You could even do brown butter with that. So don't let the fear of making pie crust keep you from making pie.
Love that, Cheryl. Thank you for reminding people. In a medium bowl, we're going to whisk some all-purpose flour. And is there a brand of all-purpose that you like?
King Arthur.
Yep. We're going to whisk some King Arthur all-purpose flour, some granulated sugar, a little baking powder, and fine sea salt. So I also put a little baking powder in my pie crust, but can you tell people why you do it?
It's a cheat.
Yep.
I mean, it is just a cheat to kind of get that lift, that little bounce in the oven. Well, I like it.
Me too.
Did you use it too?
Yes, I do.
It just gives that extra little poof in the oven. And I think we need all the
poof
the help we can get.
Yeah. It's a little bit
especially
of insurance.
At Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's a little bit of insurance for a lightness. And we're also going to add the fine sea salt. Do you ever use kosher or no?
I do actually use kosher now. I use diamond crystal. And for baking powder, I am a baking powder snob. I should have an endorsement. I do not. But I only use Rumford.
Yeah.
Period.
Nice. Good to know. Thank you. So we're going to whisk that together. Then in a large measuring cup, like a 2-cup measuring cup situation.
Yeah.
We're going to, or a small bowl, we're going to combine some ice water and some apple cider vinegar. And I love that you explain why we need the vinegar. The acidity in the vinegar weakens the gluten just enough to make that rolling crust easier and prevent a little bit of shrinkage. I also have to say I love adding apple cider vinegar because I also love the smell.
I love the smell and I love the taste.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. In fact, my dear friend Nicole Rucker, I love her pie. Talk about Nicole. Easy pie crust recipes. Her cold butter method is amazing.
Incredible.
But she puts a lot of vinegar in that recipe, and it is, so good with that brown sugar. I absolutely love it.
I love it, and I love her. And I love you.
And I will say, people will argue you down about the reason for the apple cider vinegar. Yeah. I believe that's true.
Yeah. I love it.
I mean, I believe that it definitely helps me. During the process of rolling, it feels more relaxed. Maybe it's the smell that makes me feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. We're going to toss some cubes of some cold, high-fat European butter, which has more butter fat, less water, so it's going to yield that shatteringly flaky crust. Can you tell us, is there a brand of European butter that you like?
I like Plugra.
Yep.
I also like Kerrygold.
So we'll toss Plugra or Kerrygold cubes of it in the flour mixture, and then using a pastry blender, we're going to cut the butter into the flour. Brand of pastry blender that you like?
I like Williams-Sonoma.
Yep.
It's got a nice wooden handle.
Yep.
But I have to say, if you're just making one pie, you can just also don't go out and buy, pastry blender. If you're not going to be making pies all the time, you can easily just pinch it with your fingers.
Yep. And you should have various sized pieces ranging from coarse sandy patches to flat shaggy pieces to pea-sized chunks, larger bits too. And I had a question about using your fingers, but as you said, just use your fingers.
Kind of pinch it. I take the palm of my hand, and when I'm tossing the dough, the mixture, I'll kind of flatten some of the pieces. And I will say, like I said, there's many ways that you can make pie crust. For me, I enjoy the process of making pie crust, especially if I'm only doing a couple of pies at home. If I'm doing a lot of pies, I'm definitely going to use that cold butter method of Nicole's. In the big mixer, it's great. But I think it's important to pass on the tradition of the craft of baking. For me, to be able to pass that on is important.
Yep. We're going to drizzle in half of our ice water vinegar mixture into our dough, stirring lightly with a fork until the flour is evenly moistened and the dough starts to come together. If it seems too dry, we'll add more ice water vinegar mixture, but just 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time. The dough will look shaggy at this point, but if you were to grab a small piece of it and press it lightly with your hand, it should mostly hold together. Now we're going to dump the dough out onto an unfloured work surface. Don't even need to flour it because it's so buttery.
Right.
We're going to gather it together into a tight mound, and I love this. We're going to use the heel of our hand to smear the dough a little bit at a time, kind of pushing it away from us as we work and working our way down the mass of dough to create these flat layers of flour and butter. Is it called like frissage?
It is.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. That's one of my French words.
Yeah.
I know.
I love it. I love it. And that was a technique that was passed down to you or something that you learned along the way?
Honestly, I think it's something that I've picked up along the way. I was trying to remember when someone's not there, kind of what they did. I know my grandmother did not call it frissage. That's for sure.
No.
But just the process of how she did it and remembering her hands and how she did it. And my mom, that was the method that they used.
I love it.
And, the thing about the amount of liquid that is so tricky for people learning, I say the way you're going to get good at making a really great pie is to make a lot of pies. And I do feel like it is important to learn how to do it, by hand. It's very tactile. And I don't know, there's nothing like your hands in that pie dough.
Yeah.
Well, maybe biscuit dough for me too, but.
And you get the feel of it, and then you know when it's going. I think people always think they need to add more water. And you sort of get to the point where you can feel it, and it feels dry now, but once I do this, or that, whatever the technique is, it's actually, we're not going to need
And,
more
take
water.
notes of what you did this time and, learn from it.
Yeah.
Because that's really the way that you're going to learn is by doing it over and over and over.
So we're going to gather the dough back together with the bench scraper. Williams-Sonoma again? What kind of bench scraper? Yeah.
No, actually, no, that's not true. I don't know. I hope she's still around, but I have a huge bench scraper, and it's called the Fat Girl. I swear that's the company. It's wide. It is like twice the size of most.
Oh.
It's like on Etsy or something like that. It's Fat Girl bench scraper. It's wooden handle. It's great.
We're going to gather the dough back together with our Fat Girl bench scraper. We're going to layer the clumps of dough on top of each other, repeating the process 1 or 2 more times. Dough should still have these big butter smears that are visible, but now it's sort of coming together in a cohesive mass. We'll cut the dough in half. We'll turn each into a flat disc. We'll wrap in plastic and chill for an hour or overnight. I had a question, Cheryl, that I always wonder about. Could we freeze the discs immediately and then just pull them out when we're ready to make pie? Or do you want that period of time in the refrigerator when the gluten can relax and not be frozen before you freeze the pie dough?
That's a good question. I definitely have gone straight to the freezer.
Me too. But
yeah. At the bakery, you're making lots of it. And then, you will take a tray and put it while you're making it into the refrigerator.
Yep.
But I really don't think that is necessary. Haven't you done it straight into the freezer?
A million times. I think about that question the same thing with resting cookie dough. Like if you scoop it, do you have to put it in the fridge for 24 hours, or can you put it in the freezer for 4 days?
You can definitely put cookie dough.
Right? I always wonder about that.
I think sometimes, though, it's easier to, if it sets up a little bit, though, when you're scooping it.
Yeah.
That's why I think we would put it in the refrigerator, especially if you're doing bins of it.
Yes,
and you've got a stack.
Yes,
but if you're just making a tray of cookies at home, just put them on the tray and... I love those stasher bags, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use now at home, the big ones. They're really gallon size, and I will put my cookie dough in there and stack them. And then I can just literally, Griff and I will have I'll make us 4 cookies.
I love it. What's a stasher bag?
It's like those reusable Ziplocs.
Oh, like the zippered plastic bags?
Yeah. But it's, reusable. It's that heavy.
Oh, I got to get my hands on those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I have so many Ziploc bags in my freezer right now.
Oh, no. These are what is silicone or something like that?
What do I live under a rock?
Oh, yeah. I love those. I always used to have the small ones for when I was traveling to put my snacks in.
Yep.
But I discovered that they have big ones. It's like a gallon size.
Oh, I love.
Yeah.
So we're going to remove a dish from the refrigerator, and if it's chilled overnight, we'll let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes. We'll lightly flour our work surface and roll the dough into a 12-inch round. What kind of rolling pin should we picture Cheryl using?
Oh, I'm probably the only that uses an old lady grandma
with the
rolling
handles?
pin. With the ball hand, It's big. I have a smaller one, too, that a friend found for me. And I have, the French ones. I can't use, I think it's my hands get carpal tunneled out or something. I don't know. But I can't use those French ones. And everybody I know loves those. We used to have all different kinds at the bakery because, everybody has their preference.
Then we're going to transfer the 12-inch round to a 9-inch pie plate. Do you like glass or metal?
I like metal now, but I do cook with glass sometimes at home. But the problem with glass is you can't freeze it.
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah.
But, then you have to think about the temperature. You can't put it right into the oven right away. And then, you've got your grandma's, your favorite glass pie plate. And then it's, I've never had it happen to me, but I've heard of people having them explode.
Yeah.
And, the way we make pies now where we're, blind baking them and they're cooked really well, you could always transfer that pie into your decorative. And then for space saving also, I do love a stack of metal.
Well, also, I feel like metal might provide us a more of a guarantee of a crispy bottom.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think originally a lot of people would say that you could see in the glass, but you don't need to see. You just need to know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm such a glass pie girl person because of this idea that I could check on the bottom, but I do think it takes longer.
And glass in general does take long.
And that the metal actually is some nice and extra insurance of avoiding that soggy bottom.
And then you can just get a whole stack of them.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to use our fingertips to ease the dough into the dish. We'll leave about a 1.5-inch overhang and either crimp the edges decoratively, leave it rustic. We'll cover with plastic and chill for at least 30 minutes because flaky pie crusts always bake best when chilled. Then we're going to par bake it, so we'll preheat the oven to 375, position our rack in the lower third of the oven. I thought that was interesting.
Or the middle.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a thing. Okay, middle, lower, and then we're going to dock, which means to prick the shell with a fork. Do you also do the side, Cheryl, or just the bottom?
It depends on the kind of pie, but yeah, I will do the sides too.
And then
this is a flaky pie crust.
Yeah. Now we're going to line with a heavy-duty piece of foil or paper before we put in our pie weights. What's your preference? I was introduced to foil recently. Changed my world. I love foil so much.
I grew up doing foil.
Yeah.
I don't remember us having parchment.
Yeah. What's nice about the foil is that you can mold it into the crust. Sometimes with the parchment paper, you have to crumple it first and then kind of pat it down. I don't know.
But here's a funny story. I was once on, I think it was our second cookbook on Martha Stewart's show. I discovered that she has issues with having foil touch your food.
Yes.
So she created this wrap and she sent me home with rolls and rolls of it. It was great. That was pretty genius. I doubt you can still get it now, but it was like a waxy kind of parchment and then the foil, but the foil didn't touch. It was layered. Yeah. I mean, and that's perfection.
I have had people like on Instagram or whatever get upset when they see me bake a pie with aluminum foil because they don't want it to touch their pie crust. So yeah. Martha, please send me a roll when you're listening to our episode. So then we're going to fill with dried beans. We could use rice. You can use pie weights. What's your preference, honey? What do you use?
I do what I have. Yeah. I mean, and what's cheap? Beans, rice.
I've probably had the same rice that I reuse for pie weights.
Same.
I cannot tell you how long.
You can get huge bags of it. It's great. But I will say I did buy Aaron's pie weights.
I know. I haven't bought those.
And they're awesome.
Aww.
I mean, for baking at home, I think I got like 2 bags. They're great.
Yeah, we're talking about Aaron Jean McDowell peeps. Yeah, yes. I want to get my hands on some. So we're going to bake for about 15 or 20 minutes till the edges turn light golden brown. Then we'll remove the weights, the foil, the paper, and we'll cool completely before filling. When you're par baking for a situation
How long did I say par bake?
You said 15 to 20. Is that good?
I mean, I think it's good, but it really, no oven is created equal. Yes. And sometimes it does take longer because you definitely want it to be set.
Do you ever put it back in? I know your directions say that if we're making a cream pie, for instance, so we were not baking a pudding pie. If we were not baking at all, if we're fully baking this crust, we would take out the weights and and put it back into the oven. Would you?
I would. And then some places may still puff if you docked it, but you can just dock them after.
Yep. So even for par baking, you might slide it back into the oven just to get that bottom brown after.
Yes.
Yeah. After we pull the foil in the beans.
I do.
Now we're going to make our filling. The rack's in the middle of the oven. We're going to keep the oven at the same temp, 375. We're going to wrap some medium sweet potatoes in aluminum foil, place directly on the oven rack, bake for 40 to 50 minutes until soft. Once they're cool enough to handle, we'll peel and we'll measure. Then we'll reduce the oven to 325 because you like to bake like a custard pie like this at a little bit of a lower oven.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I think that's smart. So it doesn't crack, right?
So it doesn't crack.
Yeah.
That's a story that everyone's going to be talking about during Thanksgiving.
Although, what's great is that this particular pie that we're going to talk about has this meringue topping, so it doesn't even matter if it cracks.
It does. And I'll talk about why I did the meringue topping a little bit on this pie, because traditionally people probably would just do whipped cream.
Yep. I love meringue topping so much, so it made me so happy that that's what you did. Then in the stand mixer with the paddle attachment, or you can do this in a large bowl with a hand mixer, we'll beat the potatoes on medium until smooth, remove and discard any stringy bits from the potatoes.
That's why I like to do it in the mixer, because you can pick them up on the paddle. But I will say you really you can't overmix on lowish. You want to make sure that it's really creamy.
Yep. Would you ever do it in a food processor?
You could, sure.
Yep. We're going to add some heavy cream, some eggs, cane syrup. Is that like Lyle's? Golden syrup?
You could use Lyle's. It's funny. I was thinking about this recipe last night, and I looked up my absolute favorite brand, which is called Poirer, Poirer. It's from New Orleans, from Louisiana. People have set timers on Saturday because their next batch is available.
Oh my gosh.
And it will be gone in a hot second.
Wow.
It is so good because just that little bit of syrup is for the cane syrup is a very specific kind of flavor, I think. that is necessary for the sweet potato pie. So definitely pick something that you like the taste of. Lyle's is good, though.
I feel like Lyle's is tastier definitely than corn syrup, which I assume is something else someone could use.
You could use corn syrup, but yeah, it's not tasty.
Not the same. It doesn't have a great taste. Yeah. We're also going to add some unsalted melted butter. Same kind of brand that we would have used in the crust, like some high-fat.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've even used Kirkland. It's pretty good. Costco.
And we're going to mix still on medium speed until fully incorporated. Then we're going to add some light brown sugar. People always ask me this. Maybe they do you. Is dark okay? Like, does it matter?
Dark is fine. Right. Use what you have.
Yeah. Dark or light brown sugar, some nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger. Is there a brand of spices that you like?
Oh, I love a lot of brands of spices. Yeah, anything that's ethically sourced.
Yep. And then we're going to add some fine sea salt and some vanilla. What about a brand of vanilla that you like?
Well, I'm making my own now because I've got a huge mound of vanilla beans when we were in France. Yep. But I like Halala. Yep. Is that how you pronounce
Me
it?
Too.
I love, again, anything ethically sourced.
We're going to mix until smooth. Then we'll pour the filling into the prepared pie crust, place on a parchment-lined baking sheet, bake for about 40 to 45 minutes till the filling is sort of set or firm around the edges, and then the center wobbles slightly if jiggled. We're going to talk about making the meringue, but I had a question about the assembly of this. Do we need the pie to cool completely before we put the meringue on, or can the meringue be put on the pie when it's still warm?
It can be put on, but I think it should be a little cool. It's fine either way, but you don't want it like hot out of the oven.
Yeah.
Because it's like an Italian meringue.
Totally.
It's not like the type, like when I make my lemon meringue pie, it's a type that you have to put on right away and put it back into the oven. But this is one that you make, so by the time your oven is cool enough where you're making the meringue, that's totally fine.
Perfect.
But no, you don't want to put it on a hot crust. There are a lot of things that you do have to do on a hot crust. When I make lemon bars, you have to pour in your filling on a hot crust. Otherwise, it won't, come out right. But this, no, I would let it cool.
And why is that, Cheryl? Just because that piqued my interest. Is it the idea that you need sort of the hot crust to help you begin to set that lemon filling before you slide it back into the oven? Or does it prevent sogginess? What's the issue there?
The issue is that, it doesn't adhere and it kind of seeps into it if it's separated. Yep. I don't know why. And I have tried it and I've had people try it. I mean, we used to have to stand by the oven to make sure that we were pouring it on. Have you ever made that kind of lemon bar?
Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like a lemon curdy kind of top.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
Which I love.
Me too. So it comes out of the oven, 40 to 45 minutes. We'll let it cool and we'll make our meringue topping. We're going to put our egg whites, granulated sugar, cream of tartar in the bowl of a stand mixer or a medium heat-proof bowl, maybe a metal one. Set the bowl over a medium saucepan of simmering water. Don't let the bottom of the bowl touch the water. And then whisking constantly until the sugar completely dissolves and the egg whites are warm to the touch, about 3 to 4 minutes.
Kind of like making Swiss meringue frosting.
Yeah, and also a little bit like making 7-minute frosting, except that we're going to take it off and put it on a mixer. I also love, Cheryl, that there's no candy thermometer, that we're just kind of judging by the way it feels, that warmth. And you also talk about, I love all the indicators. The mixture should appear pale and opaque, and if you rub a little bit between your fingers, should feel smooth and not gritty.
And when you feel it a little gritty, just put it back on because it'll happen pretty quickly. But I'm not going to say you can't overheat it because I'm sure you can. But if you're watching it, it's not like seconds.
Then we're going to attach that bowl to our stand mixer, fitted with a whisk attachment, or we can use a handheld mixer. We'll add the vanilla. I always think this is interesting, honey. I was just interviewing Dory and we were talking about this because right now we're going to add the vanilla. Why do we wait to add the vanilla? I always have this idea that you shouldn't add vanilla when you're cooking something hot and that the vanilla should come in later because the flavor will be brighter and not diluted. But is that even true?
I'm going with that,
Okay,
Jessie.
good. Oh, good.
I think that is a definitely great way to describe it because I'm thinking of other things that I would add it later. And, things do over time, of course, force of habit. I mean, I'm trying to think of the things that I would add it right away. If I was making a like an American buttercream, I like it in the butter.
Yes, because the butter, the fat carries
you're
flavor.
Wanting to do, but yeah, if you're going to make ganache or something like that, I add it at the end because I don't want to overheat it. That's our story, and we're sticking
with it. That's exactly what Dory, the recipe she and I were talking about. She had sort of a ganache glaze on this cake, and she had us add the vanilla after she took it off the heat, and that was my question.
If Dory says it,
I know.
It's got to be true.
Hello? We're starting on low speed. We're going to whip the mixture gradually, increasing the speed to high until the meringue is glossy, form stiff peaks, 5 to 7 minutes, and then final pie assembly. We're going to top the pie with the meringue, piling it sky high. Love, love, love. Making sure, remind us why we do this. We want to make sure the meringue touches the crust. How come?
You want everybody to get the meringue. Plus, it kind of seals it in, sealing it all into this glorious, you don't want it to slide off when you're slicing it or anything.
And we're going to toast lightly with a kitchen torch. First of all, do you have a brand of kitchen torch you like? And
oh, yeah, from the plumber. The plumbing section of the hardware store. That's what I use.
That's Cheryl's favorite brand.
That's what we used at the bakery.
Yeah.
I brought it home. There are kitchen torches. Have I ever used one of those little mini ones? They're okay.
Yeah.
But if you've got the big guy.
Why not use it?
I feel like if you're going to make a meringue, you need to have something to get that torchy because it does lend to the texture.
Oh, yeah. And
for sure.
And it gives all the marshmallow vibes, which are so good.
But you could do that.
Potato.
You could, in a pinch, stick it in the oven.
Okay.
And like I said, lemon meringue pie, that's a different kind of meringue, a billowy meringue, I think I call it. And that is the type, it's softer. It does cook in the oven and it does toast, but it's not as intense.
Yeah.
And then also I want to tell you why I did meringue.
Oh, yeah, please.
Because sometimes people will do just like a flavored whipped cream, typically. I thought it was important to show, if you go to somebody's house for Thanksgiving, especially in the Black community, and there's not a sweet potato, either like a souffle, we call it, and it has marshmallows toasted on top, which those do go back into the oven, by the way. You're going to grab your purse. You're going to be like,
get me out of here.
Get me out of here. Where am I? So that was kind of my homage, that sweet potato, souffle by doing the meringue. Plus, it looked really cool.
Oh.
I want you to try my sweet potato pie.
I know, I'm going to because
I think there's something different. Even my pumpkin pie. I think it's in the spices. There's just something about it that is really different.
Tell us, if you know yet, what other pies you guys...
Well, we did get invited. It was just going to be the two of us for Thanksgiving. And so we did get invited to a friend's house who's having a big party that she has every year. And so I'm doing pies.
Nice.
I'm super excited. I haven't decided completely, but I know definitely I'll probably have to do a couple of sweet potatoes because I think she said there's 15 or so people. I think I'll do an apple pie, and I think I'll do a pecan pie. But yeah, I haven't quite decided. But one other thing I want to say about the sweet potato pie is over the years, you worked in a bakery, and when you're trying to, new things, you want to do different things, make things more efficient. I'm going to make 2 sweet potato pies, but so one will be traditional with probably the meringue. And then the other one was something I started doing at the bakery years ago. We did a double crusted sweet potato pie, and we did a lattice top.
Ooh.
And it was a double crusted pie. And that is probably one of my favorites. Ooh. And then you just serve it with whipped cream on the side. And Jessie, the great thing about that was we discovered, shout out to one of my favorite bakers that ever worked for us, Chelsea. She came up with this method where we could freeze some of our pies, and that was one that we could freeze and bake off.
Yeah.
When we were doing, production, getting ready for pie season. And for some reason, I don't typically freeze custard pies, but for some reason, that double crusted pie, we could stack that thing up in the freezer next to our apple pies, and they would bake off beautifully.
So question about that lattice. So would you still par bake the bottom, then put the filling, and then put the lattice top?
Par bake the bottom, do everything just as we would. Wait, let me get this right.
Yeah.
Did we par bake the bottom? No, we did not. We did it like a double crusted pie. And then we would bake it from frozen. And it was so good.
Oh, my gosh,
and beautiful,
Cheryl.
With that lattice. And I've never seen anyone.
I've never seen that either,
before,
like a custard pie with a lattice crust. I love
it was
that.
delicious.
I also love the idea of peeking the filling through the crust.
Yes.
It's really pretty.
So I will post a picture of that because I think I'm going to do that for one of my pies.
Oh, that's a great idea. And then will Griff be making breads, his signature breads for this Thanksgiving?
Griff will be making breads. But yeah, we're getting off kind of easy. He's going to do probably like Parker House rolls.
I was just going to ask.
Or maybe Janie Queen's rolls that are in this cookbook. And then, then we'll just get to go to this awesome beach house in Beaufort, South Carolina. Woo-hoo. Super excited. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Cheryl.
I just love talking to you.
Oh.
I could talk to you all day.
And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie and also my sweet potato pie.
Oh, and you're mine. Thanks, Jessie.
That's it for today's show. Thank you to Diamond of California Nuts and California Prunes for supporting our show. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. Don't forget to follow She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and tell your pals about us. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. Our producers are Carrie Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie, and happy baking.